Hey guys, I'm Sam, and today I'm just going to be talking about some theories that surrounding Endgame, and this is going to have Endgame spoilers, so please don't watch if you haven't watched the film, and please watch the film if you haven't watched the film, because the film is an amazing film and I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the best films I've ever seen in my life. Right, one of the first theories that I saw was the Captain America has kids who have super soldier DNA. Now, it's widely accepted the Captain America has kids. Even screenwriter McFeely, I think that's his nickname or his surname or something, but he says, quote, "It was always our intention that he was the father of those two children," unquote. So they've said that Steve has two kids, and he obviously has them with Peggy. So would it be possible for them to have super soldier DNA like their dad does? And if they do, would that mean that could mean a lot of things. That could mean they could be they could be more Captain Americas, and they could have a bigger part in the MCU. And there's just a lot of things this could lead to if they decide to go anywhere with this. Did Steve train them? Because by the time that Steve is that old, they're obviously... In Endgame, we see Steve as a very old man. So by that point, surely his kids would have grown up. So what it makes me think about is somewhere in New York or just around the world, there's got to be some Steve's kids with super soldier DNA. And would they stand out? Because in Infinity War, we can clearly see that when Steve goes full sprint, he flies. Like, he's faster than Black Panther and everything. Like, he is unhumanly fast, which makes him a super soldier. So would his kids have this ability as well? It's just a really interesting theory, and I really enjoyed like reading it and just like looking at all the facts and what it could lead to, and just like, it's like, oh, what if they made it so people like the Nazis or Hydra got their hands on these kids and brainwashed them like they did to Bucky? It's like the theories go insanely deep as to what if these kids do, well, they do exist, but if they had these genes that made them as able as their father, what they could lead to, and like what changes they could add to the Marvel universe. Because they could become part of the Avengers if they had the same ability. There's just lots of possibilities for them if it is a dominant, if it is a dominant gene. It's just an interesting theory. I thought because it's like the screenwriter has said that he has two kids. It's confirmed that he has two kids. So I just thought it was really interesting how that could play out later in the MCU, and whether they decide they want to do anything with it or whether they don't. It's just, yeah, it just really interested me. It really intrigued me, and I thought I'm sharing with you guys because you guys can put down in the comments what your thoughts on it are, what your personal theories are, whether you think it'll have any impact in the future MCU or anything like that. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you. There's also another theory going on that people have seen Skrull in Tom Holland's school at the end of Endgame when he goes back. It's not the screenwriters have said, oh yeah, we're not smart enough to do that, but that could be them covering their tracks. And they've said that they don't know anything about Far From Home. Like, they didn't know that the snap would have opened these interdimensional rifts and stuff. So there's probably a lot that they wouldn't have fully known. So it's a possibility, but honestly, I'm not too big on that theory at the minute. There's a lot going in the Spider-Man Far From Home. There's a lot of stuff that can go on in the Spider-Man Far From Home film, and I've gone over a lot of it in my review of the trailer, and talk about I talked about some theories about what could happen and what I believe should happen and what I would like to happen and stuff like that. So go watch that video if you haven't watched it already. I didn't talk about the Skrull theory because this is kind of I only recently read that. By the way, the reason I'm wearing the same top is because I literally did the Far From Home, did some research, and then did this. So But I just thought it was really interesting about all these series coming out of Endgame, and like how Skrull is apparently going to be the next big villain and stuff like that. I just thought it was quite interesting. One of the other theories I came across was that Doctor Strange lied in Infinity War and in Endgame, obviously. What I mean by that is him saying, "Oh, there's a 1 in 14 million and whatever chance." In that battle, it seemed quite easy for the Avengers to be able to beat Thanos, especially with Captain Marvel. I just think there was other ways that they would have been able to win that battle without Tony snapping his fingers, without Tony using the Infinity Stones. I just think there could have been a lot of other ways, because they were doing very well. They did insanely well. They were winning. It's really intrigued me, because there's a lot of ways they could have won that. Like, in Infinity War, Iron Man by himself, I wouldn't say almost beat him, but hurt him, definitely put up a good fight. It just makes you think, doesn't it? Because what could have happened? Could events have played out differently? The screenwriters have gone on to say, "Oh no, Tony had to die. This is how Strange saw it, Tony had to die." But was Strange able to see that far into the future? I know it's pretty much confirmed, but the Ancient One in Doctor Strange film couldn't see past her death. And Doctor Strange dies in Infinity War. So can he see past that? And if he can, I just don't think that Tony had to die. Don't get me wrong, it was a really good ending. The one who started it was also the one who finished it, and I really liked that. But I just don't think he had to die. Because at the beginning of the film, when Thor easily cuts off Thanos' head, it's just, I know he's damaged and he's hurt his arm and he's a lot weaker of a state. I just think there was other ways that they could have won that battle without having to kill Tony. I don't know, it's just an interesting theory to think about. And honestly, I would have preferred if Tony was still alive, because, you know, his daughter Morgan, and also him being able to carry on mentoring Peter and stuff like that. But I guess it was a nice end, and Peter's now, people are widely accepting that Peter's going to kind of take over the role of Stark. So it's just a lot that can happen in the future with the MCU. So there's all that to think about as well. Whether Cap gave his shield and the rights to be called Captain America, and like the mantle, I think that's what I'd call it, the mantle of Captain America, did he offer it to Bucky before giving it to Falcon? I think this would have been really interesting. Honestly, I thought if anyone was going to take over as Captain America, it would be Bucky. I understand why he didn't, but I think I have a brief understanding of why he didn't, but there's just a lot to this theory and to whether it was offered or not that I found quite interesting. Because, as we know, before Steve travels back in time, they kind of have an exchange of words, and I know we see most of that on screen, but is there a bit that's cut out where he offers it, or says, even mentions it to him? It just really intrigued me whether that was the thing that you get, because honestly, I thought if anyone was going to get it, it would have been Bucky. But Falcon got it, and I'm glad Falcon got it. Because if Bucky got it, there's the whole thing about the book and whether Bucky can be brainwashed again, and the fact that he's still kind of part of Hydra, even though he supported the Avengers. There was always that built into the back of his brain. So I understand why he didn't do it, because giving Bucky that power would have been, I think, too risky, and they were not in the position to take risks. So I understand why they didn't do it, but it was just, I thought Bucky would have been cool, especially because, like, with the metal arm on one side and maybe the shield on the other, I thought it would have been quite cool. But the thought of Falcon with the wings and with the shield of Captain America and the different style of wings, I've seen so much fan art of it. and it just looks amazing. I think it looks really good. I just don't think Falcon's going to have the same charisma and the same presence that Steve did. I don't think he'll be able to take charge as well. And don't get me wrong, Bucky would never have been able to do that. That's why Falcon is better suited. But I don't think either of them will be able to fully fill the shoes that Steve left when he gave them, when he passed on the mantle. I don't think anyone will fully be able to. But it's just something to think about when Steve did such a good job of leading the Avengers, of being Captain America, that has he made it too hard for anyone to fill his shoes, or made it too hard for anyone to be able to do it the same way that he did, or with such effectiveness and with such leadership? I just don't think anyone's going to be able to really fill that the way Steve did. So it's going to be interesting on how Falcon conducts himself as the new Captain America in the next stages of the MCU. It's going to be really interesting what happens in the new future films, because there's a lot of ways that the MCU could go. I'm glad with how it's gone now, although there's a few things that I thought, but mostly, like Thor the Dark World. But most of the films, like Thor Ragnarok and Spider-Man Homecoming and Avengers Endgame especially, they are amazing films. Absolutely unparalleled to anything else. Avengers Endgame, it's not on the minute, but it's at the minute it's second most grossing film in the world. Top is Avatar, which has been out for years and years and years. So Endgame is most likely, I'm not going to jinx it, but most likely going to be able to overtake that. It's just really interesting to see the way that the MCU could go forward and the different opportunities that they have to push themselves, to push the limits of filmmaking. And it's just going to be really interesting to see the lore unfold and see how the characters evolve and become more present in their roles. Maybe Falcon will gain the confidence to actually fill Steve's shoes. Maybe Peter will be able to become a better Tony, because we know Peter Parker is insanely smart. But is he as smart as Tony? I honestly don't think he is, but maybe he could be, because he is insanely smart. Like, he made the Spider-Man suit. He made the shooters anyway. So it's really exciting to see. And I know there's one theory going around. I just want to cover this really quickly before I end the video. There's one theory going around that Steve shouldn't have been able to pick up Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker isn't, and there was a whole thing about Groot being able to pick up Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker isn't measured off worthiness, it's measured off physical and mental strength. I think mental strength mainly. I'm not 100% sure on this, but this is my verdict on it. It's measured off mental strength, and Groot, as we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy when he sacrificed himself, he has insane selflessness and just the ability to want to help others, and like, he sacrificed his arm for Thor. So, and Steve obviously has endurance like no one else, and Thor is obviously the god of thunder, so he's gonna have insane will and everything, and with all the pain that he's gone through, losing his mother, his father, his brother, and his best friend, and you can see the effect it had on him in Endgame, where he got fat and he just kind of fell into a pit, and then kind of brought himself back to fight like that again. I just thought it was a really nice way to get Thor back into it. And Chris Hemsworth said he wants to carry on acting as Thor. So Thor is going to be in the future Marvel universe, which is going to be really interesting to see how he's going to evolve more as well. So it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of ways that this could go, and I'm really excited to see. So, to be honest, I think the MCU has many directions which it could go. I can't wait to see the lore unfold, and there's lots of possible outcomes that we could see, and there's lots of possible films and stuff like that we can see, like with Captain America's kids. What could happen to them? Do we even talk about them again? Do we find out if there was another opportunity for them to kill Thanos in a different way? Do we find out if Cap did offer Bucky the shield? Do we find out? There's so much we need to know, or can know, and it's just really, I think how much we are invested in this and in this cinematic universe really shows how much we connect with these characters, how they've affected our lives in so many ways. So this has been Sam. I hope you enjoyed listening to some theories. I know I rambled. I don't care. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.